Hi everybody, Cheryl and Lady coming to you from the Ladies Garden and Home, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than my regular videos. I thought I'd show you how I've put into the garden some memorials of some of my dearly departed, and I hope maybe it'll give you some ideas as how you could commemorate somebody and just find peace in the garden with them. So I hope you join us.
The grass lady. You got grass in your mouth.
We've all lost dear ones, you know, whether they are our pets or our parents or our friends. Family, especially it seems the last few years, you know, people have really suffered quite a bit with grief. And I wanted to show you one of the ways that I've kind of, I wouldn't say manage my grief, but kind of help me out. And that is putting into my garden, into the space that I love so much, memories of them. And I wanted to show you, for example, 2 years ago, I lost Frodo. Frodo was my parrot. He was a Senegal parrot, and I had him for 35 years. In fact, he was a baby when I got him at the bird jungle on my first date with my ex-husband back in 1987. And when he died, it was... just he was such a part of my life, a noisy part of my life too, so things were very quiet. And there's a lot to get used to, but I got this statue of St. Francis to commemorate him and put him in the garden. And if you don't know the story of St. Francis, he was a monk. He's a saint very well known for his love of animals, and he's my patron saint. So I put him in here, and here he is amongst the flowers, and he's my tribute to Frodo. Last week I lost Poochie. Poochie was my Maine Coon. I had her for 16 years. I got her as a kitten along with her brother Fluffer. Now you've met Fluffer and Layla before. Poochie was a little camera shy, and in fact she rarely came downstairs. Upstairs was her territory, and she was my sidekick. She hung out by my feet or on my lap while I worked. I worked from home, so while I worked all day long she was there. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, she was 16. But it leaves such a hole, you know, in your heart. Anyway, to commemorate Poochie, I got this little statue of a guardian angel holding a cat. Isn't that sweet? And as Poochie was going, and I was cuddling her, I kept thinking about the baby that I lost 30 years ago, and how he would be snuggling with her in heaven. So I thought that when I came across this, I just thought it was perfect. But memorials don't have to be statues, they don't have to be headstones, they don't have to be plaques. Within my garden, I have a lot of things growing that are tributes to people that have passed that I've loved very much. For example, I came across this unusual plant. It's a Portula Pulaka. I don't know. It looks like a moss rose to me, and I think I remember that's what my father called them. But this reminded me of my dad because he had these growing all in his backyard, and he passed 10 years ago. So I thought that that would be nice to plant these up on in his honor. Just coming up here in the shade is Lily of the Valley, and I'm glad it made it through winter. I wasn't sure. I planted this last year in remembrance of my grandmother, who loved lilies of the valley. We would go out and pick them for her and make little bouquets, and as my mother did when she was a little girl. So I planted these in honor of my Grandma Angie. Three years ago, my Aunt Lucille passed. She was a school teacher, and although she never had children of her own, she always considered my brother and sister and me her children, and she would love to read to us. She taught second grade, and teaching children how to read was her passion, and she sure did get me into a lot of really good books when I was a little girl. When I came across the statue, which was in her storage unit, along with a lot of her other, stuff, I knew I had to have this for the garden because it just reminded me so much of her reading to me as a little girl. Those who've watched my videos know about this strawberry cart. I've had it since the summer that she passed. When Aunt Lucille passed, my best friend sent me this cart, and she says, why don't you plant something in memory of Aunt Lucille? And what I did is I planted these strawberries. Her favorite dessert in the world was berries and cream, so I thought that was appropriate. And her favorite flower were these bright red geraniums that you would get every summer. So every summer I pot up this strawberry cart. I just picked this up yesterday, and it's time to plant that. And that's Aunt Lucille's cart. And I used to have this blueberry bush up on the deck right by the strawberry cart. Also, I got this in her memory because berries and cream were her favorites, but it got too big, and I had to move it out here into the garden into a much larger pot. This mint was growing here when I moved in, but every time I pick some, I'm reminded of my cousin Patty, who passed away 3 years ago. A strong memory that I have of Patty was when she used to come to my house, and I used to give her some mint to make mojitos and things like that with. She just loved the smell of my backyard. She says it was just so wonderful to come out into my backyard and smell the mint. So this is just a memory that I have of her. Like I said, I didn't plant this, but I remember her every time I'm out here grabbing myself some mint. After Frodo died, I found it very hard to think about planting peas again because that was kind of our thing. I would pick a bunch of peas and I'd bring them into him, and he would just go to town on them and love them so much. But then I decided when I grow snap peas, I'll always have a memory of Frodo. It was a very unusual vegetable that my great aunt Nell would serve with a plate of olive oil with just some salt and pepper, and she'd slice it up, and that is fennel. And I probably went decades and decades before I saw fennel other than at her holiday gatherings, and that's why I decided I wanted to grow fennel. Not every memory in the garden needs to be based on somebody that is no longer with us. Roses are a favorite of my mother's. She knows I love them. She's given me a lot of these rose plants, and I made this little garden here with Mary, who she does have a very special devotion to, and it's something that we can connect on and talk about, and it makes me very appreciative that I still have her, to have these memories that we can still form. Of course, roses also have a significance in helping me remember my grandparents. My grandma Wanda would receive a rose every morning from my pawpaw. And for years and years and years, when they were in bloom, she would always have a fresh rose right on her kitchen table in a little vase. So I've made this little garden here with a little bird bath. The birds love it. And I can't wait for them to be in bloom, although the tulips are looking pretty magnificent right now. I don't know what I'm going to do one day without my little lady. I mean, it is her garden. It's her garden and home. I will tell you, though, I'm going to cherish each and every minute I've got with her. Stop eating that. My great-grandfather passed away when I was, actually it was right before my college graduation. And that summer I had gotten my first apartment. It was actually a house that I was renting with a couple of girls from school. And for some reason, I just felt like I wanted to get in and garden and grow some tomatoes and peppers and that kind of thing. My great-grandfather was an actual farmer in southern Illinois. And of course, my grandfather, his son-in-law, was the county extension officer for Marion County, and he would advise farmers on all kinds of things like soil amendments and weather issues and that kind of thing. So farming and gardening were always, I guess, in my family's tradition. And especially that summer after Grandpa Trout passed away, I would go out to the garden as a way to really deal with my grief. And I remember being there on my knees, tending the plants, and really kind of just communing with him. And I think that that grew into a lifelong love of mine of gardening, whether it's flowers or edibles. So I'm glad I have those memories. And I'm glad that when I come into the garden, I can remember special people and pets in my life. I know, I sound nuts, but it helps. Anyway, I hope this gave you some ideas. Maybe plant something this year in honor of somebody, and then you can think of them every time you tend to it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. And stay tuned for next episodes that aren't going to be, I don't know, this depressing. We're going to get some real good gardening done now that frost has passed and it's time to plant. So, from the Ladies' Garden and Home, enjoy your gardening journey. Bye!